Hi, Heidi. It's great to be here with you today. I'm so excited to introduce you to our Brave community and want to thank you for joining me here in the Brave studio to share with us your breast cancer experience. And thanks for everyone for tuning in to this series, What Made You Decide? So before we dive into conversation, I want to give Heidi the opportunity to introduce herself. She is one of our awesome Brave ambassadors. So Heidi, thank you for being here and love to have you just quickly introduce yourself before we jump in.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, Ashley. And it's a pleasure to meet you as a part of or an extension of Brave. Yeah, my name's Heidi Herrick, and I came into contact with Brave a couple of years ago through a friend of mine, Christine. You might know her. And I am honored and delighted to be a Brave ambassador and just help build awareness and education for women and their families who are facing this disease. So thanks for having me.
Thank you. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So I'd love to have you just start by sharing with our audience a bit about your breast cancer diagnosis and what you might share with them about your diagnosis and what led to it.
Yeah, sure thing. So I was 37 and kind of close to my 38th birthday, and was diagnosed right after my birthday. Great birthday present.
Right?
But yeah, I mean, like any woman in their 30s, you're definitely not thinking about breast cancer. And I'm sure that I haven't listened to your video, but I'm sure you spoke about that. Just at that age, you're thinking about having babies and working on your career, and you're not thinking about your health, and certainly not thinking about diseases that menopausal women are facing. So definitely did not have it on my radar at all. And I had really just through just a kind of a self-exam felt something that didn't feel totally normal. I think actually my husband, if I can say that on video, I think my husband found it.
You can share that.
And he was doing an actual exam.
Of course.
But I really was like, I'm sure it's nothing. And I had a history of cysts. I had gone in for ultrasounds probably 10 different times over the last, 15 years prior. And so didn't really think anything of it. And he just over a period of a couple of months really said, Heidi, you've got to go and get this checked out. So, from the time that I found it to the time I went in, it was probably 2 to 3 months, which I look back on and I'm like, oh my gosh, why did I wait that long? In the big scheme of things, I don't really know that it would have made a big difference. But still, at the moment, you're thinking, oh my gosh, when you get that news, you're thinking, I can't believe I didn't act faster. So I went into my primary care and I was with my physician's assistant, and she felt it and she said, oh, I just remember the look on her face. And she just said, this does not feel right. We need to biopsy this. But she definitely level set expectations with me that this does not feel right. So at that point, I really kind of had that feeling of dread, like, I'm just waiting for evidence to validate what she's already told me. So as you know, it's sort of like this flurry of multiple biopsies and different mammograms and ultrasounds. And I think there were some other things in there too. I can't remember all the different tests, but there was a bunch of them. And then she just called me on the phone and said, you have breast cancer. And I remember just being in the bathroom and just like collapsing and just thinking like, oh my gosh, like this can't be happening. I remember, and again, I know you've gone through this, like not even being able to say the word, like I couldn't even say the word. It just felt like it was just hanging on my lips. Like I just couldn't even say it. So those first few months were just really just so difficult to talk about it. So that was, I just kind of gave you the highlights of the actual formal diagnosis. Did you want me to go into any?
Whatever you feel comfortable with. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember, I had a really close girlfriend of mine go through her own breast cancer in her 20s. And so, and I'd watched her do that just kind of from the sidelines. And so she was the first person that I called, and she really helped me navigate that and equipped me with the questions that I should be asking. And so I felt like, even though it was such a shock, that I had someone and some resources to say, hey, these are some questions that you should be asking. These are some tests that you should be asking for, genetic testing, these kinds of things. And so I was really thankful to have her and just have someone that had already kind of walked it already go ahead of me.
Yeah, I can imagine. That was really supportive and helpful at that time.
Yeah. She was and still is amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's awesome to have that resource. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that. And can certainly relate to your experience and appreciate you sharing that really personal experience and difficult time. I'm curious if you might, or what you might share with our audience about your course of treatment once you were diagnosed.
Yes. Well, Ashley, you did warn me you were going to ask me that, and I immediately felt this sense of panic because I thought, oh my gosh, my memory is like not great. I hope you're not like fact checking me.
Oh no.
Okay, so I'm gonna try to wing this and get everything right.
Totally fine if you don't, and if you skip, we're good. Just whatever.
Yeah, well, there
whatever
were definitely, I mean, there were definitely a lot of like curveballs. So I had a bilateral mastectomy first, and that was the summer of 18, and that was, it's like one of those things where you look back and you think, gosh, was that the right call? And I think all the time that was a bad decision. That thought crosses my mind all the time. Like, I wish that I didn't do that. But then my amazing husband and my awesome friends will say, well, you're just that type of person that if you got a lumpectomy, you probably would be saying the opposite. Oh, I should have gotten a mastectomy. I should have gotten a mastectomy. You know what I mean? So it's like, damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of a thing. And when you're in that situation, as you make the best decision that you can at the time with the information that you have. And maybe there was a better decision, but at that time for me, that was the right decision. I had a genetic mutation for my BRCA1 that was, I wasn't BRCA1 positive. I was BRCA1, what did they call it? Like a variant of unknown significance, of VUS. And so I had a grandmother pass away from ovarian cancer, and a couple of other little, not like red flags, but yellow flags in that side of the family. And then with me being, 37, 38, the genetic counselor and the doctor both said you probably wouldn't regret doing a mastectomy given the circumstances. So I did choose to do that. And I've had friends since that have done lumpectomies, and I kind of think, oh man, like, you got to keep your breast and you didn't have to go through all that garbage, and maybe that would have been a better call. But I try not to, I'm just being honest. Like, I have those thoughts, but then I correct myself and say, this is the decision that you made and you can't go back. So you just have to go forward. And just trust that you made the right decision. the one, I don't think I asked the right questions when I was considering that decision. And I don't think that I was given great resources. I kind of felt rushed in that decision by, and they were great doctors. Like, I love my surgeon, but I don't think that they really said, here's option A, B, C, D, here are the pros and cons of all of these options. And it was very sterile. It was very like medical, and no one really said emotionally or sexually or just self esteem, like no one really kind of approached it from that perspective. And so I really kind of, that's my regret, is that I didn't consider those permanent surgical decisions from those perspectives. I was really thinking about them just from this, in which every woman is in that boat thinking, I just want to live, I just want to survive, like get the cancer out by all means necessary. And you're kind of in that deer in headlights stage. But what women need to know is you come out of that stage, and that part of you should be considered when you're in the deer in headlights stage. But no one really came to me and said, Heidi, in a year from now, this is what you should know. So that's kind of my regret. But
thank you for sharing that. And I think it sounds like a big part of your journey during your treatment and beyond. And so I really do appreciate you sharing all of that. And I'm curious what, if you might share what you wish you had known at that time, or what you wish your doctors had spoken with you about or shared with you.
Well, it's almost embarrassing to admit it, but I will say it because if I didn't know, then I'm guessing there's other women that also didn't know this. But I didn't really understand that your whole tissue is scraped and removed, which means you have no nerve endings in your breast tissue at all. She might have said that, but I don't remember her saying that. And I certainly don't remember her saying, and this is what it means for you. Right. So it's like, I've got a glass of water here, and I might I might knock it off my counter and I won't even know I touched it. Right? So, just take that and then take that a little further, and then what that means is that you have no sensitivity. And so I think from that perspective, that was the biggest, like, oh my gosh, what did I just do? Like, how did I not know that? Or how did I not ask that question? So I think that's probably, going back to your question, that's probably the thing that I wished I would have said, okay, well, what is it when you say you lose all those nerves? What does that mean to like a woman in her 30s who has a husband? And, I had actually been wanting to have another child. So I don't know that again, I don't know that I actually would have made a different decision, but I would have liked to have considered that and gone into it knowing that.
Yeah. So it sounds like being more prepared for that reality after surgery would have been really important to know, even if you still made the same decision.
Yeah. I wish that I would have been able to connect, which is why I think Brave is so amazing, because I think I would have loved to have connected with like women that had done reconstructive surgery after a mastectomy, and then women that had chosen to do a lumpectomy, and just ask them like, hey, what was your experience like? Why did you choose this? Are you happy with your decision? But I didn't do that. I think I talked to just my one friend.
Yeah. And I so appreciate what you're bringing up because, of course, for any woman, but especially for young women,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's there's a lot of changes and a lot of
Mm-hmm.
considerations, physical changes,
Mm-hmm.
emotional and mental challenges that come on this
Yeah.
journey, and really hard
Yeah.
decisions we have to face, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, when you think about, being in your, and there might be women watching this that are in their 70s and they're like, you know what, that's that's not even on my mind, or whatever. But unfortunately, there's this rising number of younger women that are getting breast cancer, and for them, there's I don't want to say more on the line, but there's more. I mean, a life is a life, but if you're still in childbearing and you're in a relationship with someone where intimacy is an important part of that, those are serious considerations. It's not a one-time deal. It's you make this decision, and the rest of that season of life will be affected. So fortunately, I've got three awesome, beautiful kids that the Lord's blessed me with, and an amazing husband who tells me I'm beautiful every day. So I'm thankful. But I know, sadly, that there can be a lot of just secondary fallout after the cancer,
Yeah,
for other women who don't have those things.
yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm curious what you might share share with women about your experience, perhaps any thoughts that you might give them when they're facing similar decisions. If there's, we know you've talked about what you wish you had known, and any
Mm-hmm.
pieces of advice or suggestions to help them as they face these decisions.
Hmm. Um, that's a great question. Uh, um, I don't know. When I was, and maybe you had this, like when I was newly diagnosed, I felt like I had this fire hose of people coming at me with, you need to read this, you need to check this out, you need to know this, you need to stop eating that, you need to start eating this. And it was like, I actually just want all of you people to leave me alone for like a hot second. Um, so I almost like ironically am pausing because I feel like I don't want to be that person that's like, hey, this is what you need to know. Because I didn't want to hear that
Yeah.
from people. I just wanted to sort of be left alone. Um, I don't know. I mean, you kind of open a very open-ended question. And my response is not so much about breast cancer, but it's just about like more of life in general. Like, you can react to things in so many different ways. And um, trying to be sensitive here, but when you are dealt a really bad hand of cards, you can choose how you want to react. And um, we're all going to die. We're all going to face some hardship, whether it's physical, relational, financial, whatever, right? Like, we're all going to suffer. And just because you're suffering right now doesn't mean that you were forgotten, or um, you were shown more lack of favor than the next. I think there's just a lot of why me, when you feel like you're the only one that's struggling, but yet when you look around, everyone's struggling. And they may not be struggling right now, but they were struggling last year, or they're going to be struggling next year. And so I think just like this idea of common grace, like we live in a broken world. We're all broken. We're all sick or will be sick. And so we just, again, your question, I think you meant more specific to breast cancer. So I'm sorry, I'm being more kind of broad, but just like, hey, it sucks. It sucks to have cancer, but every one of us is going to suffer from something, and it's our choice on how we're going to choose to react. And when we react in a way that lifts other people up, we can help them fight what they're fighting instead of being a victim and thinking how bad we have it.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And
Yeah.
certainly no expectations about what you were going to share. So really appreciate that. And there is so much done about mindset, right? And that reminder, perhaps that we can feel the suck, but maybe not get consumed by the suck of the situation. And I know we need to wrap pretty soon, but I might just follow up quickly on one thing you shared, which I think was perhaps a beautiful gift in disguise to our audience. And I wonder what you might say to women facing this about giving themselves permission to say no and turn off the flow of information, or to say yes and ask for more, and to listen to what they need and honor that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that everyone is trying to do the right thing. When someone gets sick, everyone wants to try to do the right thing, and it may not be the right thing for you, right? Like that may not be what you need, but it doesn't mean they're intentionally trying to be annoying or to be overbearing or crossing boundaries. And so I think just being gracious with people, knowing that they really are trying to help, even though it doesn't feel helpful, because you can spend a lot of negative energy and tears and hurtful words dealing with those people and really damage relation. I mean, I've heard of really sad stories about women that have, cut people off because they said something or did something that felt really hurtful. But I think we just need to realize, like, hey, that I've probably done that, like if I look back on friends and family members who have gone through hard times, I've been the jerk that's said, hey, you're going to get better. And it's like, no, you don't know that. So actually, you shouldn't say that. Like, or that person that's like, hey, you should really talk to, do you remember John Simpson? You should talk to him. Now, his wife died of breast cancer last year, but you should talk. I'm like, I don't really want to talk to John Simpson. That's not helpful. So that kind of stuff, it's like, okay, I need to show you grace because you're trying to be helpful, even though you're not right now. So just not taking it personally, I think. And just saying like, hey, thank you. I will let you know if I want to pursue that. And then you asked me, sorry, I'm going to go back. I'm bouncing around.
Please.
You asked me the previous question of like, when I got all kind of philosophical on you, but when you're asking about what advice would you give, one other thing came to mind after, and just the emotional roller coaster that you go on, especially hormonally, which I'm sure is like, no one can prepare you for that. And if you're going to go through menopause, which most women do when they go through all their treatments, no one really prepared me for that. And so you're going to be crying one day, you're going to be in a great mood the next day, you won't want to come out of your closet the next day. And just knowing that it's really hard to kind of find where you fit in your new phase. and then accepting it. And I'm struggling with that still every day. It's like, whether it's my energy level or my memory or the way that I show affection or just things now, like my patience. These are things that I'm not like blaming them on cancer, but these are things that have changed since cancer. And so I think for women who are facing it or are in it right now, just it's like that serenity prayer, it's like accepting the things that you can't change. So it's like, yeah, you may never be able to run the mile at that pace again, or you might not be able to lift that weight, or you might not be able to, whatever that thing is. And kind of coming to that place of, okay, you've got to let go of that and accept that you might just have a new normal now, even though you didn't want it when you were 40, you expected it when you were 60, but you gotta accept it now. So that would be my other thing.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that as well. A lot of adjustments, a lot of learning about your new body, your new emotions.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what keeps coming to mind, and it's a word you had said, is grace, being graceful with ourselves, being graceful with others who may have great intentions, but may land in not a great place. So,
right.
And I'm also hearing this sense of honoring yourself and your journey and where you're at. And
yeah.
I so appreciate you sharing all of this and opening up with us and being real. It's, I think, easy to try to paint a picture of it's all going to be fine. And it might be, but that new fine may look really different, right? So
yeah,
I want to thank you.
Yeah, if anything, I mean, whenever you're faced with, a life altering disease, it's I think the gift is that you certainly have a heightened awareness of life. And I tell my kids that not every day. I used to. I should start. But just like, we're not guaranteed 85 years on this earth. And it really, I think it is a gift in some ways, because when you're given a wake up call, like cancer, you really, it sort of rattles you, it kind of shakes you from this monotony of like work, play, TV, dinner, sleep, do it again. Like you just kind of are on this autopilot, and you can fall in, or at least I did. I can. You fall into these rhythms of just kind of going through the motions. And so I think that the gift of a disease like cancer is that it's almost like someone puts glasses on you when you had terrible vision, and you see like, oh my gosh, there's this beautiful world and these amazing people. And I'm thinking about, my patio furniture or something. It's like, no, I need to get out and love on these people and not be looking for a discount on my club chairs. Sorry, that's what I'm thinking about right now.
I love it. I love it. I love it. And yeah, and although it's hard to see in the moment, there can be wonderful gifts from going on this journey, right? And so they may take time to come or to see them, but thank you for sharing that also.
Ashley, well, thank you for all the work you're doing with Brave. I'm super honored to be part of this, and just excited to see the momentum that's going into it, and knowing that women that wouldn't otherwise have resources or information or mentors can now have these things, because it's
Absolutely.
not going away anytime soon.
True, true. Well, Heidi, thank you so much for being here, for sharing,
Yes.
for being an awesome Brave ambassador. And to our audience, we are here. And if you are going through breast cancer, facing reconstruction, or some of these decisions that we have faced at Brave as ambassadors and board members, please do reach out to us. You can find us at bravecoalition.org, and we are here to support you and to help you on this journey. So Heidi, again, thank you so much for being here with me today, and excited to continue to connect as we carry on these journeys.
My pleasure. Thank you for all your
So,
hard work, Ashley.
thank you, Heidi. Bye for now.